Hello, everyone. Good morning. George DeSantis here with the look of the market for the week ending April 27th, 2018. As usual, let's take a look at the disclaimer. Please read it to understand that this is not investment advice, since I'm not an investment advisor. We'll begin now by looking at some charts, of course. So let's start with the weekly chart of the S&P 500. First thing that stands out to me is that there is this A, B, C, D triangle that keeps playing itself out since this decline here after the high in the end of January. I think it was January 26th. In any case, we do have this triangle playing itself out, working toward the apex. And since it's at the top of this uptrend here, it should turn out to be a continuation pattern where the market then digests this move here during this time and then continues to go higher to making new highs. But we aren't anywhere close to that yet. We do have a target of 3094 from this ABCD triangle, but we can't, as I said last week, we can't begin to entertain that target in any serious way until we see some more upside. So what do we see in addition to the triangle? We see that first of all, the moving averages that we usually look at here, this the 4, the 9, and the 30 are now indicating a downtrend. They are close to each other. There's a bull-bear struggle going on here. You had a gravestone here, a doji gravestone, and then you had a hammer. So traders and investors can't seem to make up their mind yet as to which way they want to take this market. But the struggle is on. You can see the reversal here and then a reversal back up here. So that's another indication that perhaps we're getting to the apex of this triangle. And one way or the other, we're going to start seeing some upside or downside movement. I'm betting on the upside, of course. Well, let's look at some of the other bullish indications, in addition to the fact that we have a possible continuation pattern triangle. First of all, you can notice that that MACD seems to be trending up a bit from below the zero line, always a good sign. And RSI 12, which is the best it has the best indication on weekly charts. When it crosses above the 40% line, this yellow line here, it usually marks the beginning of a new uptrend. Well, it's been meandering along that line for a little while, for a number of weeks. But right now it seems to be trending up a bit. That's a good sign for the bullish case. Williams percentile, we still needed to make a significant move above the 50% line. It hasn't done that yet. And also the sum of the rate of change indicator is back below the 4% line, seems to be approaching it once more. On the negative side of things, we still have parabolic above the most recent bar. So according to the parabolic, we don't have an indication for a switch to an uptrend yet. That's the situation with the weekly chart. It's still consolidation, uncertainty, a couple of dojis here, doji indicating uncertainty, and we need to see some definitive move one way or the other. We haven't seen that yet. But the good news is that we're holding at this 50% line, this 50-day moving average, which is this purple line here, this magenta line. So we are holding here. Let's take a look at the daily chart. Now on the daily chart, we can see the triangle here once again, A, B, C, D, right? This point is D here. And we seem to be, as I said earlier, we seem to be holding here. Now, on the daily chart, we can see the 200-day moving average. and we seem to be finding support at the 200-day moving average. That was pointed out by Larry McMillan in his most recent bulletin that he sends out, that we seem to be holding at the 200-day moving average, which is a good sign if you're bullish, if you're inclined to be bullish. We can see on the daily chart that those trend lines are continuing to cluster one above the other, almost on top of each other. So if we expand the chart, you could see it more clearly. That's where we stand in terms of the daily chart, fluctuating back and forth. We have a narrowing of the Bollinger Bands. You can see the dotted line narrowing. So we are coming into a squeeze here, and that may be another indication that we're coming to the apex of this triangle. We got to get a move up or down. MACD at the bottom of the chart is still above the zero line, so we can say that to some extent the bulls are in charge. Notice that the bears got much weaker here. This histogram was much lower, rather higher, I'm sorry, higher than the histogram here. So bears were losing strength here, and perhaps that's all it wrote for the bears. Bulls are in charge, but not showing a whole lot of strength. RSI 12, well, on the daily chart, it's not as significant as the weekly. That's the chart that the research was done on to be using the 12, you know, the RSI 12. But it's above the 40% line, which is good. Williams per centaur just broke above the 50% line here. We would like to see a little more movement up. And then it looks as though the sum of the rate of change indicator is giving some signals that it wants to break above the 4% line. So we hold and wait to see what direction we'll break in. This has been a long consolidation for a couple of months now, since the end of January. So I thought we would look at some stocks that I listed on the shopping list that I sent you guys in an email, those who get the email anyway. So let's start with Align. Align is one that I traded. I lost some money. I took a 6% loss on this one. What happened is I didn't pay attention to the fact that it was hitting the upper Bollinger Band, and I bought it somewhere in here. Of course, it collapsed after that, but I took a loss of about 6% on it. Can't win them all. So right now, there is this extended triangle going out here. We don't know. Well, it mirrors the market, the rest of the market. There's this long consolidation period we've been having. So I'm not owning Align right now. Let's take a look at another stock. And here's Microsoft. Here's a daily chart of Microsoft. I do own this one. Here's an AB CD triangle, and it broke out above the upper line of the triangle. Took a bit of a pullback here, but then it declared pretty good earnings, I believe. And since then it's been up nicely. So if you look at some of the other indicators, parabolic switched to below the most recent bar. So the trend is up, and you have the moving averages above each other here. And RSI 12 is now holding above 60, and Williams per centaur above 50, and the sum of the rate of change indicator just bounced above the 4% line. So this is one I still own. A daily chart of Apple. Apple hasn't been going anywhere fast. Right now it's at 162. Made a high above here at about 182. So I don't own this right now. And you can see the other indicators are parabolic above. The trend lines are below each other here, the 4, the 9, the 30. So I don't own Apple right now. Here's MasterCard, a daily chart. You can see that the ABCD triangle occurs here again. Now let me just mention that Larry McMillan just briefly talked about the fact that quite a few individual stocks have this triangle formation. Well, how do you play that? Well, there's a trader by the name of Berovic who I attended his workshop some time ago. And what he does is when you have an ABCD triangle, he puts a buy stop order just above the upper line of the triangle here. And if it gets filled, it gets filled, and you're in. And then you put a stop just below the low of the previous bar. And he's been trading this for quite a while, this sort of thing for quite a while, very successfully. So one way to trade this is a buy stop order above the upper line. And if it doesn't get filled, then, you just take the order off. So let's take a look at another stock. Here's another one on that list that I sent you. IDXX is a pharmaceutical company, diagnostics and research. Another triangle, and it's approaching the apex, and you can see that upper line is pretty close here, so maybe a buy stop order just above this line would make sense, and we can see how that plays out. Some of the other indicators are looking fairly good. We are above 50% here, above 4%. MACD is slightly above the zero line. Let's take a look at another. NVIDIA there's a daily chart here of NVIDIA. NVIDIA seems to be making a bit of a move here. The semiconductors had been in the doldrums for a while, but now this one seems to be picking up. But we're still in bearish territory. I mean, the moving averages are below each other, the 4, the 9, the 30. So I'm not owning NVIDIA here, and you can see some of these other indicators haven't quite breached the water lines yet, So I'm not owning this one now. Here's the technology ETF XLK. I used to own this some time ago. It was pretty profitable. Right now, you can see similar kind of a triangle here, and maybe worthwhile for me to put a buy stop order just above the upper line of the triangle here. But it's still in bearish territory. You can see these trend lines are below each other. So not ready to buy it right here, but perhaps a buy stop here. And here's a daily chart of Visa, one that I continue to own. What we can see here is that we had this triangle, ABCD triangle. It broke above the upper line of the triangle, pulled back a bit here, but then declared pretty good earnings and jumped all the way up and hit the upper Bollinger Band. So on Friday, it pulled back a little. Once you get to that upper Bollinger Band, you got to be cautious because it's 2 standard deviations, and it's in rarefied atmosphere up here pretty much. Now we have a target of 129.93, but I like Visa as a very long-term investment. The trading range is very narrow, and I like that. You could look at all the other indicators below here. You can see how nicely they're above those watershed lines here, that the 50%, the 4% line, the 60% line. So I like Visa, still have it. Here's CRISPR. I've talked about this before. It's a biotech. So of course, as with all biotechs, there's an increased amount of risk because they're at the mercy of the FDA approvals, etc. Notice what happened here. CRISPR, just like Visa, went all the way up to the upper Bollinger Band, hit the upper Bollinger Band, 2 standard deviations, and pull back. Now it's closer to the lower Bollinger Band, and it's within this ABCD triangle. So I still have it. I own it. I have a nice gain in it, and I'm going to continue to hold it. Here's another one I own, Adobe software company. I'm holding it, although it had a pullback here from the upper Bollinger Band, and now it seems to be trying to wend its way up again. We're pretty close to the end of this 15-minute period that we're allotted for these free videos. So I'm going to say have a nice weekend. I hope you had a good weekend. It's already Sunday morning. And we'll do some of this again next weekend.